long ago there was nothing but darkness, and in that darkness was the Great Spirit, Creator. So they said the Great Spirit sitting above in the darkness, he had a thought, a dream, and a vision himself. And when he thought of it, it spread from his mind. Just like when you throw a stone in a pond, it ripples out. So they became the stars, the sun, the moon, and the earth. And when the Great Spirit looked on the earth, it was just a stone. And he said, nothing can live on just a stone. And then he put the water on that stone. He looked at it again, he says, no, nothing will live on that. So then he put the earth on that stone. Oh no, it's still not ready yet. So then he put the trees and the grass and everything like that. Then the animals. But he did not put the human beings on the earth yet. Everything he put on the earth has a spiritual life and has a spirit power to it. Even a single blade of grass out there has some kind of a power to it. Get away from the story a little bit. We have stories that explain pretty much everything. But as the years went by, there became to be less and less people to tell those stories about creation. Everything around us is alive and has a soul, just like us human beings are alive and have a soul. So that was one of the biggest things when we started losing our elders that had a lot of this knowledge. One old man that told me some things, that old man Pipe Mustache, that's what he told me one time. He said, oh, I used to tell all these stories, Winnebago stories, all kinds. And he said, and people would laugh and make fun of me. He said, but those stories, they're more than that. They're just not made to make you laugh. He said, but some of them are that way, because you do learn best when you're laughing about something. But he said, people really don't know what these stories are. He said, they actually tell the history of our tribe in a spiritual way. Tell us where we came from. Tell us where certain ceremonies came from. Some of the things that Winnebago did weren't too good. We're not supposed to do those things. Some of the good things he did, that's what we're supposed to do. So he said, since they laughed and made fun of me, I stopped telling these stories. But he said, yeah, every now and then, though, I find somebody that is interested or is telling these stories themselves. Then I concentrate on that person and I tell them what I know. That way, I'm passing it on. And he said, of course, it's going to be really rare to find someone that knows all of those. But yet he said, each and every one of us carries part of that in our bodies, our soul, our mind, part of that story. And he said, if somebody wants to know all I know, they're going to have to backtrack and talk to all the people I talked in my life to get those stories and get the answer to things. But then again, he said, when I go, I'm going to take it all with me. But in another way, though, each and every one of us carries a little bit of that knowledge. And when we get together and talk about things, it comes back. It's not really lost. These Winnebago stories are like a soap opera. They go kind of so far and then they quit and another segment takes place. But I'll probably only tell you the first one of it. So he put the animals and everything on earth, birds, everything, except human beings. And he said, someday in the future I will put the Indian people on the earth. And he told animals and trees and everything here, he says, you're going to have to take care of those people when I put them on earth. And you're going to have to teach them with what I've given you. So everything in creation consented to that. So out of the earth, a spirit took shape and form out of the Mother Earth. And she's the Mother Earth woman. now Kamigukwe, son of the Earth Woman. So she had the shape of an Indian lady, so as you begin to see, that's why we call it our Mother Earth. So everything has a spirit life to it and power. So this woman, every morning, she would see the morning star come up in the east. And she began to fall in love with the morning star and began to believe he is a man. Of course, the morning star, when he'd come up in the morning and he brings the daylight, he would look down on the earth and see this Indian woman looking up at him with love in her eyes. So after a while, he decided to come down to the earth. So as the morning star come close to the earth, sky was all red. Then pretty soon when his feet touched the ground, he was an Indian man, dressed in red buckskin clothing. And he walked up to the Mother Earth Woman and he says, every morning I come up in the sky world and bring the light with me. I see you standing here looking up at me. And I've fallen in love with you and I want to marry you. And he says, but I'll have to take you from the earth here and you'll live up in the first level of the sky world with me. And if you consent, and I take you up in the sky world, you can never look down again to the old earth I've taken you from. Otherwise, you become so homesick, I'll have to drop you back down to the earth, and who knows what might happen to you if that happens. But since she was in love with him, she consented. So he took her by the hand, and they both flew up in the sky world. And they lived up there on the first level of the sky world. And they lived in a rainbow, a wigwam made out of rainbow. And every now and then you can see that rainbow, especially if you know there's rain going to come. You cover the sun with your hand, you will see that rainbow around the sun in a circle. So, as Mother Earth Woman was falling through the sky, she was screaming and hollering, because she would have been killed if she hit the earth, even though she was spirit. Well, in those days, the birds and the animals were way bigger than they are now. So it was the swans and the geese. They heard this Mother Earth Woman crying and screaming and falling through the sky. And they felt sorry for her, so they flew up there and she landed on their backs. They slowly and gently brought her down to the earth. Then she stepped off their backs. That's when the deer walked up to her and said, oh, when the Great Spirit placed me on this earth, he said, someday there's going to be Indian people here. And that you're allowed to take my people's lives, meaning the deer people. So that from our meat, you'll have your food. From our hides, you can make your buckskin clothing. From our bones, you can make tools. But there's one thing we ask. When one of your people takes one of ours hunting, they put a feast down. And thank the Great Spirit, and thank the spirit of the deer that was killed. And if they do that right, there'll be a lot of deer put on earth for all the Indian people. Not just for the one that got the deer, but for all the Indian people. And so it went with all the animals, all the birds. Even the trees could talk. And they all promised the Mother Earth Woman to take care of the Indian people as long as they were treated with respect and the people only took what they would need. So then, Mother Earth Woman, from what she learned from the sun, the moon, the morning star, she made a wigwam and she lived in there. And with the animals' help, she got food, everything she needed. And then she gave birth to a daughter. So now you can see it's always been the women that have been first on the earth. And that being that way, they have more power than the man. Because women were given the power of life and to carry that life within their bodies for the 9 months it takes to give birth. And in a sense, too, that's how we're supposed to look at the Mother Earth, things that grow from her body. So, as her daughter began to get older, Mother Earth Woman began to tell her the things she learned from the sun, the moon, and the morning star. And the Great Spirit put in each of the 4 directions these spirits that take care of the winds and the seasons that come from those 4 directions. And again, when this girl got to be old enough to have children on her own, her mother would get worried about her. And she would say, oh, when you go out picking blueberries, do you ever see anybody out there? Even if it's just a wind to come by. And the girl thought on it. She says, no, nothing like that ever happens. So her mother says, well, if that does, I want you to lay flat on the ground. Whatever that is, it'll go right by you. It won't harm you. Well, she went out to pick berries, and here the wind picked up, the west wind picked up, and it was the west wind spirit fell in love with this young girl. And by her not laying down and forgetting what her mother told her, that wind blew by her dress. She was going to have the west wind spirit's baby. But yet she didn't know it. So she walked back to the wigwam with her basket full of berries. And her mother again asked her, did you see anybody out there today, even if it was just the wind to come up? Her daughter said no. So then they had their supper and they went to bed. Next morning, the young girl, after breakfast, wanted to go pick some more blueberries. So this time her mother says, I want you to come back before the sun sets, because I worry about you. So the girl took her basket, she went out and picked blueberries. And time went by and the sun began to set, and her daughter didn't come back yet. So her mother got worried, and she took a rabbit skin blanket and put it on her shoulders like a shawl, because the nights are cold when blueberries are ripe. So she went walking out to that blueberry patch, and no sign of her daughter. Deeper and deeper she went in there, and then pretty soon found her daughter's moccasin tracks and started following them. And she come to a little clearing, and she's seen that basket of berries spilled, and there on the earth was blood, but no daughter. So she took that rabbit skin blanket off, and she scooped up that earth and that blood, and she wrapped it up in that rabbit skin blanket. She held it and began to cry over it. Oh, my baby girl, I'll never see you again. You're gone, you've been taken from me. That old lady cried all the way back to her wigwam, and she put that little bundle down and she cried herself to sleep. So the next morning when daylight come, she remembered she didn't have a daughter, and she began to cry again. Oh, my daughter, I'll never see you again. You've been taken from me. But as she was crying, somewhere in that wigwam, she heard a baby cry. Wah, wah. So right away, that old Mother Earth woman, she started to cry again. Oh, my baby girl, I'll never see you again. Wah, wah. Oh. So she began to purposely make herself cry, find out where that baby crying was. So pretty soon she found out it was coming from that rabbit skin blanket. So she ran over there and she opened it up. And there was no earth and blood in there. It was a little baby Indian boy. He says, hey, Grandma, cook me something. I'm hungry. That was Winnebujo. That's how he come to be on earth. And he was really a messenger for the Great Spirit, and when he was that young, he didn't know the extent of his powers. But yet he made a lot of things for the people. And there's some real goofy stories about Winnebujo too. Like they said, they make you laugh, because sometimes you learn best when you laugh. So that's how everything got established on earth and was given up for the people to use someday in their lives. Everything. But again, there was rules given with everything. Not to take too much, just what you need. And you know, Indian people, you see them put that tablecloth in the grass, or even inside a building. And then they put the feast food on there. That actually represents the Mother Earth. That tablecloth and the feast food that's put there represents the food that grows up from the Mother Earth's body. So it's even though we might do these ceremonies in a building, it's still like the Mother Earth. Well, in a sense, I just did, I think. But when the Great Spirit put everything on in an order of creation on the earth, but then there was a flood that Winnebujo caused to happen. And yet he used muskrat, otter, loon, beaver to dive down. And it was a muskrat that came up with the old earth from after the flooding. And Winnebago called the chief of the snapping turtles come up, and with those 4 grains of sand that the muskrat brought up, when he blew on that 4 times and he threw it on that turtle's back, it became an island. And everything got reestablished on that, the turtle island that we live on now. And just like the Mother Earth level below us from the flooding, what got reestablished on the turtle's back had the same power as what was from the earth below us. So every place we go and every place we set our feet, we're on the spirit ground, every place. Except now, cement covers everything. A lot of times as Indian people, even though they wore moccasins, a lot of times they would take them off and just walk on the grass. Because they said, we want to feel that power of the Mother Earth coming from the ground, through the grass, coming up to our bare feet into our bodies. We like to feel that power. If you talk to the great people, when we talked earlier about that earlier story about the Great Spirit dreaming and have a vision himself about the universe and the creation of the stars and everything, well, you talk to these scientists, they say the earth is made out of stardust, and since it's that way, and we come from the Mother Earth, and our bodies, when we die, our bodies go back to the Mother Earth, we're all made from stardust too. So the earth and the people are so closely intertwined that we're not to be separate. We're the same as those mountains. We're the same as that tree over there. We're the same as the grass. You know, I always tell people it's like this. What would happen if all the plants and animals died off right now? What would happen to the people? Well, we'd be the next ones to go, because we rely on all those things for our lives. And yet, what if all of a sudden all mankind passed away, just died? What would happen then? There'd be no more people, of course, but the plants and animals would continue on like they had for billions of years, because they don't need the people. They can survive on their own. And that's the power that they were given by the Great Spirit. So we're part of everything. Just like what you're doing now, I guess. Asking questions and recording. And hopefully you can get it out to the bigger people, because there is people out there that are willing to listen to this, because they can see the things happening. You know, you see here at LCO a lot of clear cuts. Well, at one point the tribes went along with the BIA and they said, we want to buy back all airship land and the timber in the land from the heirs. And the council went along with it. And then we finally found out when the BIA buys 52% of the land from the Indian people, the heirs to it, they have the power of attorney. And since they have the controlling interest in that land, the tribe owes, when the BIA bought it from the heirs, after they didn't explain things right away. So they said, we in the BIA have 52% of your land, so you owe us that much money to pay it back, and then it'll become tribal land with no heirs on it. But some of the heirs wouldn't sell. Like I wouldn't sell my land, my timber. So then they said the only way that you can make the money to pay back the BIA is for the BIA to do a clear cut. Cut every tree down and make money from that, and that goes to pay back the money they bought it from the heirs. So I don't know why they always get me to do this, but some officials from Ashland office came down to the tribal office here, have a meeting and explain this land reconsolidation thing. So then I get a call to go attend a council meeting. And I really don't like to attend council meetings. But I went down there in the BIA, they were talking about this land reconsolidation. So after I finished, I said, anybody got questions? So right away, yeah, I got a question. So then, just like I said here, it's my understanding now, 3 reservations went on this little pilot project, a land reconsolidation. So I said, so you bought the timber and the land from 52% of the heirs. And since you bought 52%, you have a majority of interest in the land, and the tribe has to pay you that money back before it comes to tribal land. Is that right? And they said, yeah, that's right. So I said, okay, so let's make it easy for you. Let's take a 40-acre section that you sold, that you bought from the tribe, the heirs. And when you did a timber sale and you cut all the timber off that, you bought it for $100,000 from the heirs, but yet when you sold the timber it only made $80,000. So we owe you $20,000 yet for that parcel becomes tribal land. Is that right? And they said, yeah, that's right. So then I said, well, let's make it easy again. Let's take another 40-acre parcel. And you bought it from the heirs again for $100,000, but this time when you did a clear cut on it, you made $120,000. So this extra $20,000 now, can it go back to pay off this other 40 acres? And they said no. I said, well, why not? And where does that $20,000 go? Well, it goes to your council for tribal governing business. So, oh, okay. So then I said, what are my rights as an heir by not selling my land or my timber off? I'm going to hang on to those. So the first time you asked me, it was $369 you asked. And I said, I'm heir to 3,690 acres. But yet, you offered me $369 for that. I wouldn't take it. And I said, if an Indian doesn't write back to you, that means no. You can't take that as a yes. So I said, then next time I got a letter from you, it was $1,500 you're going to offer me for my land. And I said I wouldn't sell. Next one, it was up 2,000 something, and I still won't sell. So I said, so even though you guys got 52% of the land, what about the 48 other percent of the heirs that have this? Well, and I said, and what are our rights on that land? Well, the same as before. You can hunt in there. If there's a creek or a lake there, you can fish there. Cut your firewood in there. You can have a sugar camp. You just can't put nothing up permanent in there. Well, how can I do that if you clear cut the whole doggone thing? Then again, they didn't know how to answer me. Then the real question I got them with was, what if you get more than 52% of the whole reservation under your control as the BIA, and you become the major landowner here? Would that give you the power then to abrogate us as a reservation and as a tribe? Then the chairman was going, hey, I don't like this. I don't know how we got into this. And the BIA guy says, well, we don't know how to answer you. We're going to have to come back down another time. They never came back down. But see, I think council got me down there because I was going to ask the right questions. But see what they do? Cut everything down. And that's why you see it's so hot. So the weather is so hot. A lot of tornadoes, a lot of whirlwinds, a lot of big fires. That's the way of us getting punished for what we've allowed to happen to the Mother Earth. And they told us when a tornado touches on the ground, that's really a thunderbird. Touches on the ground, he turns into a tornado and causes all that destruction. But that's the price we pay for what we've done to the Mother Earth. And you'll notice a lot of those tornadoes and all that stuff are hitting the big cities and all that stuff. But now it's happening here because we've taken too many of the trees, to me the places the animals live at. You know, that Bagwajanini, the wild man, you know, they call him Bigfoot, I guess, but he's in charge of those trees and plants and things out there. One of them, besides the bear and the other animals. And they've been seeing him. They've been seeing him around in these clear cuts. You know, so they're sending us a message, you know. Stop what you're doing to the Mother Earth. You know, some people might think it's hard to go back to the old ways, but it's not. A little bit harder work, maybe. But yet, those people were always healthy. Like I said, garden, fresh stuff from the garden, deer meat, bear meat, all those things, rabbit, plants they get for food, medicine. But yet, we ruin it. And then we ruin it for ourselves and for the future generations. But yet, you can still turn it around. It's not that far gone yet. Because there are people still asking questions, people wanting to know how to live that old life. And, you know, there's like my grandma told me, she said, everything out there is a medicine. Just some hasn't been revealed to us yet. So you gotta treat everything with respect. It's going back, talking to the young kids, telling them the things you know, what you learned from the elders, what you yourself dreamt. You can share a little bit of that. You never tell a good dream completely. You always keep part of it secret, because it's like a seed, so that power goes back inside of you. Every time you tell a dream or a vision, you're giving part of that power of life to that person you're telling it to. So they said, always keep part of that dream or that vision secret, so it goes back inside of you, and you can give a piece away to somebody else. Just like they said too, if you gather medicine, don't use it all up. Always keep a little piece of it, because from that little piece you can find the other ones again. But yeah, it's to talk to whoever will listen. That's how we're going to bring this back. And then to do it, to practice it. Well, I know people always said, don't leave no trace of your passing, which means, you know, you walk through someplace, don't take so much of everything that you leave a marked trail. Kind of like that. Some things you leave alone.
How does the Indian philosophy of Mother Earth differ from that of the dominant society? I think we know from what you said here today.
I think they believe everything is dead, nothing is alive. Nothing else has a soul but people. And that makes it easier for them to take without knowing what they're really doing. Well, it's hard to see and hard to know when our own people are doing a lot of the damage themselves. Just like I said, if we don't quit what we're doing or slow it down somehow, there won't be nothing left for anybody. And as they go, we go. As the plants go, the trees go, the animals go, we're going to go. Well, I was raised by my grandma and grandpa, but when they first got together, they didn't really have a house to live in. Well, they did in a sense. They worked for a resort up by off the Chippewa flowage, but this was before the flowage was created. And there was a guy who used to come up from Chicago. They said, a rich man. He come up in a big car, and he had could spend 3 months of the summer golfing, fishing, and he'd make fun of my grandpa and all the kids he had. And my grandpa was a real quiet-spoken man. He wouldn't say too much. And actually, my grandma's the one that told me this story. She said, yeah, every year this man would come up to Chicago and tease your grandpa about how many kids he had and how poor we were. And your grandpa just took it. He wouldn't say nothing. And one day as he was, after a lot of years, listen to this man tease him and stuff. He's a handyman around the resort, and he also cleaned the boats, and he carried minnow buckets, all that stuff, bait. So one day, she said he was carrying 2 5-gallon pails of minnow buckets for bait. And this man from Chicago started teasing him. So finally, I guess my grandpa had enough. He put down those 2 5-gallon buckets of minnows. He turned around and looked at the guy from Chicago, and he says, well, he says, all these years you've been coming here, he says, you make fun of me and my family and think we're poor, he said. And you're a rich man. You can come up here every year, and 3 months of the year you don't have to work. You fish, you go play golf, you do whatever you want. You go out, eat, you drink. He said, and you got a lot of money to do that. And I don't care how you got your money, in a good way or a bad way. He says, but you know, when you pass away, you can try to take that money with you. You can even stuff it in a casket with you, but where you're going to go, you ain't going to be able to spend it. And he says, and when you do die, your relatives are only going to remember you as long as it takes for them to get their hands on your money. And you're going to be forgotten. But he said, but me, sure I have a lot of kids. And sure you see in the summer no shoes and holes in their pantses. But he said, I put money aside. Come winter, they'll have good shoes. They'll have good clothes, warm jackets. He said, and that's what my riches are. My wife, my kids, the woods, the deer, the animals, the fish, the lakes, all those. Those are my riches. And when I die, he said, my kids are going to remember me, and my grandkids are going to remember me. There's always going to be a little bit of Henry Smith on this earth because of how I raised my children. But like I said, those are my riches, what the Great Spirit gave me. Plants, animals, the trees, the fish, the lakes, the rivers, all that. As long as I have enough food to eat and a roof over my head, I'm okay. And then picked up his buckets and went back to work. So yeah, so that's the kind of man he was.